the older generation sometimes is very set in their ways and does have issues with listening.
I want to first apologize to you and all the kids your age. I am so sorry.
How do you think we can balance economic development and nature conservation? Because both are important.
So the climate crisis that we see, it's a catastrophe now, is self-repairing, self-fixing, provided we don't meddle with it. A dam is not an infrastructure. A dam is just a bowl, just like a pan that you take in the kitchen.
So you mentioned me becoming the Prime Minister one day. What would be your expectations of a leader of a nation?
And we need more of you kids to grow up fast and take charge.
Hello, and welcome to the Shiv Nadar School Podcast. I'm your host, Shrinjini Singh, and today we have a very special guest joining us, Mr. Bittu Sehgal. Mr. Sehgal is an environmental activist, a writer, and the founder of the Nature Sanctuary Foundation. He has dedicated his life to preserving biodiversity and fostering a relationship between humanity and nature. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm so delighted to be here with you.
So, sir, let's get into the heart of the matter. The climate crisis is one of the defining challenges of our time. So, what is your perspective on this? How do you think our relationship with nature has changed?
I think our relationship changed the moment we thought that we could control nature rather than the other way around. Darwin had always said it's not the strongest, it's not the most intelligent, it's the most adaptable who will survive. Homo sapiens, the wise man, thought that, no, I can actually alter nature. I can make nature adapt to me. Why should I adapt to nature? And I think that was the start of everything. And you can get into economics and things like this, but I'm not an economist, but some of the best economists in the world, they say that climate change is the surest evidence of market failure. So that's a start. And from there, my generation has caused it. And your generation doesn't have to fix it. You just don't have to make the same mistakes we made, and nature will fix itself. So the climate crisis that we see, it's a catastrophe now, is self-repairing, self-fixing, provided we don't meddle with it, with nature, with the biosphere, too much any longer.
So, you mentioned economic development. So, how do you think we can balance economic development and nature conservation? Because both are important.
See, there was this man called Buckminster Fuller, and what he said was that the economy is a wholly owned subsidiary of the biosphere. Now, what does a wholly owned subsidiary of the biosphere mean? That means you can't do any economics unless you've got clean air, clean water, fertile soils, so on and so forth, and a certain degree of predictability. If there's one thing that economists don't like, it's unpredictability. And yet, the economy, as I see it, not just of India or the US or the European Union, almost all countries, we're going about tampering with systems we don't understand. And eventually that's going to have an impact on the economy. I do not see at this moment in time too many economies around the world fully appreciating how dependent they are upon the biosphere. So yes, the economies are going to be hit. Many economies have already been hit. And many of them will probably earlier rather than later realize this. I mean, you have Bhutan that says gross national happiness instead of gross national,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. We could go on, but you've got many questions to ask, I'm sure.
So, you mentioned realization, and I know you've expressed some regret for the actions of your generation. So, how do you think our generation or younger students can play a role in change that is needed?
If anybody can play a role, it has to be you. First of all, because neither the climate nor the biosphere will change on a dime, It takes time. There's no V-turn. It's always a U-turn. So by the time we're coming around to the U-turn, it'll be your generation that will be doing the doing. I think that what your generation is already doing and will have to possibly do even more strongly is to study what we've done, the mistakes that we've made, and not repeat those mistakes. For instance, to give you a very specific example, a river is an infrastructure. A dam is not an infrastructure. A dam is just a bowl, just like a pan that you take in the kitchen. The dam doesn't produce water. It's the river that is actually the infrastructure. It's the forests behind it that are the infrastructure. That's where the rain falls. That's where it gathers the water. That's where it pushes it underground. That's where it flows. And all civilizations and all language and art and culture came from that. It never came from a dam. It came from the forest. हमारे देश में कहते हैं कि जंगल नदी की माँ है. So we believe that. We worship everything. And I think it's time that everybody began to worship nature. Not dogmatically, but just be grateful. Wake up every morning and say, oh my God, thank God, the sun is shining, I can breathe air. We need to be a little more grateful.
How do you think all the stakeholders, be it corporate people or students like me, come together and take initiative and take charge to bring this about?
Look, at this moment in time, you're not driving the bus. You're one of the passengers. And yet you have the greatest legitimacy and the greatest power to make a difference. Let's be specific about the environment today. Let's say we built a large dam, Tista Stage 3 in Sikkim. 4 or 5 years later, a gulf took place, the water, glaciers melted, and it's washed the entire 11,400 crore rupee dam down the drain. Now, what is the end result of that? Say they build a new dam. When they build a new dam, it'll be 18,000 crores. But the GDP goes up by 18,000 crores, so there's something wrong with the calculator. So, as far as the economy is concerned, your job is to let people know politely, nicely, properly, not rudely, not necessarily by fighting, though nothing wrong with fighting for the right thing, that look, it is in our own best interest to allow, let's say, a river to be a river. Now, when I say that, you build a dam on a river and it might bump up the GDP by 20,000 crore rupees. But that river, if it doesn't actually manage to give life to the turtles, to the crocs, to the fish, the water doesn't become as clean or doesn't stay as clean as it used to. So your job, which I failed to do, will be to teach your generation and also your parents' generation that look, in some form or the other, it is necessary for us to improve our economy by making sure that we do not destroy that which gives our economy its base. Like you take soil, there are 9 times or 10 times more, there's more diversity in soils than there is in all the stuff above. Now very few people think about that, and yet we're using chemicals in the soil. So maybe what we need to do is to say, India has so many farmers, they depend upon the soil, they depend upon the monsoons. So let's keep soil health as one of our measures of success. Let's keep AQI as a measure. If the AQI is going up, then for something's going wrong with the economy. We're producing things that are causing a problem. You are not in control of the bus right now. But I'll tell you this, that some of us, even I might not be in control of the bus, but I can talk to the people who are driving and saying, look, there's a precipice there. Don't go that way, go this way. And we're not suggesting to the economists that, kal ko sab kuch theek kar do. We're just saying, look, change the direction, change the focus, and there's a simple economic reality. If you underestimate the value of an asset, you are bound to lose it. So it's for you kids and for people like me to try and explain that the economy will do better and that the trickle-down theory doesn't work at all anymore. The economy has to trickle upward. Push the economy from down up, that's more equitable, more sustainable, more friendly. And I think the business of the biggest is the best, that age has gone. You will grow up into a system where instead of having migration from villages into cities, you will find that the villages themselves have the infrastructure to live and they have the soils to feed us. The bottom line is that Buckminster Fuller was right. The economy is a wholly owned subsidiary of the biosphere. And if we wish to have a stable economy, then we absolutely need to have a stable biosphere. And that means every single creature that lives must be allowed to continue to do what it does, including the handling of waste, for instance. I would say that the plastic industry, for instance, is bringing the biosphere down to almost on its knees. Microplastics are now being fed by mothers in their milk to young ones. Planktonic life is being affected by microplastic. So something is wrong with the economy that is allowing that to happen. So you don't have to reinvent the economy, you just have to look at it differently. And I think that India has that in its power. I think I've given you more or less what I do feel, but I will tell you this, that silence is not an option. The silent majority will become the silenced majority if the young don't speak up and if the elders don't listen to the young. And the first hit will come to the economy of abusing the real infrastructures of life, air, water, land.
So I personally think that while you are absolutely right, the older generation sometimes is very set in their ways and does have issues with listening. And while we can try our best to communicate, is there any other way where I can make a change, or younger generation or students like me can make a change? I have, and I know people have been making attempts. We have been going on forest cleanings, on school trips. We have been picking up litter from riversides, in the forests, in the nature parks. And our school recently did an initiative where we conserved water, and it was called Every Drop Counts. So, do you have any input?
So yes, very specifically, what you did when you were cleaning up was not cleaning up that patch of ground. You were setting an example. Now, every parent and every teacher knows that children don't do what they're told to do. They do what you do. So if a parent spits on the ground or smokes a cigarette or doesn't give any care for the environment, then he's teaching or she's teaching the children not to do that. So I would say that you set an example. That's the best way you do it. For instance, you brush your teeth. It's a almost a cliched example. But can you brush your teeth without hearing the tap? And can you switch it off? And can you do that when the bathroom is closed so nobody else is there, but you tell your parents that, you know something, when I brush my teeth, I don't do that. I save water. There are other things that you can do as well. Talk to your elders about the need not to waste, because waste is one of the worst things that we are doing and one of the main causes for climate change. It's the main cause for health problems. So when you say teach adults not to waste, it means set an example and say, no, I don't really want that. I don't need that. I've already got one. I don't need another shirt. I don't need another new clothes. I don't need a new car. Try to make things, set the example for the adults, if nothing else. And beyond that, look, your job as a student is to be a student. Your job is not to be somebody who's going out over there and cleaning up. That should not be your job. Your job really is to, like we run Kids for Tigers, and we have young kids who say to their elders, because we told them you got magic eyes, uncle, you dropped this thing, I think is very useful to you, it's just a plastic bag. And nobody can take offense. Understand your power, speak to your elders, set a good example, and don't be afraid of asking questions, including, do we really need to do that? Is it fair? Is it right? What will I do when I grow up? How will I be able to live if right now we're having an AQI of 350? What's going to happen? If you ask the right questions, you set the right triggers out. And more than asking the right questions, it's setting the right example. I would have liked adults to set the right example, but they haven't done it, let's face it. Let's have the kids set the right example and change the way adults behave.
So you've also started quite a few initiatives yourself. For example, the Kids for Tigers program and the Rakshak narrative serial for children. Do you have any inputs on those?
It's not me that started it, actually. We started Sanctuary magazine under the banyan tree in Ranthambore, sitting with Fateh Singh Rathore, and I was just a kid, 28-year-old kid or something like that. And I said to him, to Fateh Singh Rathore, who was the director of the park, Fateh, I want to come and do something. I don't want to come here as a tourist. So he said to me, अच्छा तुम बॉम्बे वाले लोग ऐसे ही हो, जाओ पार्टी करो, ये करो, वो करो, अगले साल वही प्रश्न पूछो मेरे से. So I said, no, I want to do something. So he said, start a magazine. So he said, there are so many political magazines, so many sports magazines, so many society magazines. Is there a wildlife magazine in India? So something happened and I said, I will never come back until I do get a magazine. I will never come back to it. I loved Ranthambore. It was my life. And literally 9 months later, Sanctuary was born. And out of Sanctuary was born Cub magazine. which was for children, because all the parents said, look, oh, my children are tearing pictures out of this, why don't you make one for them? And out of Cub magazine came this very strong feeling from teachers and from parents. There is not enough for kids to read. They need to experience, they need to touch, they need to feel, they need to smell, they need to hear. So we started Kids for Tigers so we could take children out, and even the same parks that they visited, to reinterpret them and say, do you realize that underneath this ground there are so many more creatures? That every bee visits so many flowers, and that's how pollination takes place. And look at this tree, how does it push the water up from the soil without any sound, all the way from the little rootlet all the way to... So awe, wonder, appreciation, aha, that's what we did with the children. And that was Kids for Tigers. And the tiger was just a metaphor. It was not an animal. It would be a polar bear one day, it would be a giraffe the next day, it would be a mouse the third day.
So you started your journey in a corporate career, but are now an environmental advocate. What shifted?
I think John Lennon made the difference. He said that life is what happens to you while you make other plans. I was destined to be first a test cricketer. I was taken in, I was offered a scholarship by the Punjab College of Sports way back in 1962. That didn't work out because my parents didn't agree. Then I was enrolled in a chartered accountant's office as an article clerk. That didn't work out. And eventually what actually happened was, I was in college, doing morning college, and then in the afternoons, I wanted the outdoors, and I got a job. Selling what? Selling plastic buckets to the chemical industry at the age of 17. Now, I didn't think about what the damage is from plastics or from chemicals and things like this. I was 17 years old. When things started to shift, I actually was a salesman. That was what I was in college. I earned my pocket money. And now, slowly, almost by osmosis, I became a salesman for nature. The magazine was started, I told you, because of this one beautiful human being called Fateh Singh. But as far as the rest of life is concerned, even today, it's what happens when I'm making other plans. I didn't think I'd be talking about the economy in 1981 when I started the magazine. I didn't think I'd be talking about politics, which is now affecting everything, in 1981 when we started the magazine. But I can tell you this, that the one thing that actually changed everything inside me was the way, like magic, everything works in nature. And how does it work in nature? And also the fact that I discovered just by being there that no creature on earth has the technology to waste anything. There is no such thing called waste in nature. One species waste is another species asset. We are the only people, Homo sapiens, the only animal on earth that has the technology to waste. So I figured that if I've learned this little thing, I'll try and spread it to as many as possible. My generation, I have more or less given up on. So I'm working on your generation, and I'm hoping that you will grow up better than us. And I believe that you will. I think that was my story. I wish I was a fly on the wall 30 years from today to listen to your story, because you're going to be living a wonderful life. I've lived a funeral for much of my life when I see something destroyed. And that funeral made me work to not have more funerals. You're going to wake up every morning and say, wo to kharab ho gaya, abhi dekho wo theek aa gaya. River ganda tha, abhi theek ho gaya. Just working with the biosphere. Just working with Mother Nature. And that's how it'll be for you. I really do believe that. And if I was a fly on the wall, or if I get lucky and live another 20 years, I think I will see you people in charge, and you will make this a better world. And that homeostasis business really works. Like a cut on your hand heals, the planet will heal. First of all, understand this. The world is not a perfect world. If it was a perfect world and everything was perfect, we would still be blue-green algae. So every problem that comes about is an opportunity for you to improve on the way things were done before. So I envy you your adventures, actually.
So you mentioned being in the wilderness quite a bit. Can you share how your experiences, particularly being in the wilderness, has shaped your opinion on conservation?
It's a very long answer, but I'll give you the short one. When I'm in the wilderness, I feel like, how shall I tell you? When wilderness is not only a forest, I dive. When you're underwater, you feel like you're in your mama's womb again. You feel safe. You feel also insignificant. And you feel not in control. So that release that you feel is something very, very strong. The moment you feel that you're not responsible for the world, you also feel that you shouldn't necessarily do things that damage the world. And being out in the wild, it makes me feel one with the leaf, with the fly, with the snake, with the tiger, with the tick on the back of the tiger. And I feel very comforted. I'm in a large family. I feel very good when I'm on my own listening to the rainfall or the wind in the wind, the leaves, I don't know, it might sound very poetic and all. It's not so poetic. It's just very nice and calm feeling. It's a beautiful feeling.
So I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
What would be your expectations of a leader of a nation?
My expectations of you as a leader of the nation, first of all, may women prevail because they are the ones that will fix the world, is that there are only two political parties in the whole world. One is the Bacha party, you, and one is the Buddha party, me. So as Prime Minister, I would ask of you, respect the Bacha party because it's their world. But more than that, just wake up and smell the coffee. So here's the thing, beta. The Bacha party and Buddha party that I spoke about, because the Buddha party doesn't understand the value of the things that is being lost. Who is talking about the environment? Nobody is talking about. Who is talking nadi? Who is talking forest? बच्चे तो कहते हैं कि अपना फर्ज निभाएंगे, कुदरत को बचाएंगे, अपना फर्ज निभाएंगे, जंगल को बचाएंगे, लेकिन मैंने चूं भी नहीं सुनी from my generation about what is going to happen to your world tomorrow. This planet is not to be toyed around with. It's not raw materials. This planet is the throbbing heart of our life. If you do that, everything else will fall in place. Respect the water, respect the soils, respect the air, be grateful for every day. Gross national happiness. That's what I'd like
Very
you to
important, sir.
Yeah.
So even I was having a discussion the other day, and I don't think I've ever heard a finance minister talk about investing in desalination, maybe, because there is a water crisis as well.
Yes, beta, desalination is one part of the thing, but I'll tell you this, ki the technologies that exist in nature, you take this bottle of water, it's a glass bottle of water, you take this bottle of water and you throw some kachra inside it. And when it evaporates and it condenses and comes down, you can drink it again. It's the purest form. That's the magic of nature. We don't need to make clear water. We don't need to make clean water. We just need not to dirty the old water. And it's not how much we spend to clean up the environment. It's how much we don't spend to dirty the environment that's important.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your insights with us.
Thank you.
Is there a parting message you'd like to leave our viewers with?
I want to first apologize to you and all the kids your age. I am so sorry. I tried very hard and I'm still going to try to the day I die to change my generation's thinking about nature. My apology is that I could not keep my generation in check. All of us, I'm 76 years old, I'm in the departure lounge. You come into the arrival lounge. I have no right to dirty your arrival lounge, break chairs, break glasses. I can't do that. I should be cleaning it up. I should be leaving it a welcome place for you. I haven't been able to do that. But many of the kids that we've been working with for 30 years are now almost in charge. And I can assure you, I can absolutely assure you, everything will come back to balance. It will be all right. My message to you is trust in nature. Believe that everything will be all right. And there's a word called homeostasis, which is things coming back in balance. You get a fever and you start sweating, so you get cold. You feel cold, then you start shivering and you feel warm inside. Everything, the whole planet is designed to fix itself. So leave it alone and they'll come home wagging their tails behind them. Species will come back. The air will be pure again. Not if we make it our mission in life to destroy it, which I know your generation will not do.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Sehgal, for joining us today and having this enlightening discussion.
My pleasure. Total, absolute pleasure. And thank you, Shiv Nadar School, for this opportunity to speak to wonderful kids like you. Bless you, all of you who started this. And we need more of you kids to grow up fast and take charge. You'll be the Prime Minister, you know that, no?
I hope so, sir.
All right.
That's all for today's episode. Until next time, remember that the future of the planet lies in our hands, and together we can create a more sustainable world.